welcome to Forever Fierce. I'm Catherine Grace O'Connell. I'm delighted to introduce my guest today. Loretta Sayers is the founder of the Countdown to 60 blog. She's also my Forever Fierce sister, my friend, my confidant, my FierceCon organizer, and just about everything else, an incredible inspiration in our community. So welcome to the show, Loretta.
Thank you, Catherine. I really appreciate you having me here. I am very excited to be here today, and I've loved your show, and I love what you're doing in the community, and so to be a part of it is just an honor. I'm very excited.
Thank you for that. Well, I love that you chose Countdown to 60 because it couldn't be more appropriate. You are officially counting down to 60. You actually have a ticker on your blog, don't you?
I do. I finally decided I would do that. But yeah, it started in 2017. So it was July 2017. I woke up one day and that 60 just like popped out there and scared the heck out of me. And I was like when Harry met Sally, when she says, I'm going to be 40 one day. I was like, I'm going to be 60 one day. And it's not that far off. I was 58 at the time, 58 over. And I was trying to tackle that big number of 60 with some sort of grace, speaking of your name, and trying to figure out how to do that. I was like, well, what do I want to do? And I had decided that maybe starting a blog would be the way to do it. I really don't understand why I decided. I just thought I need to start writing this down. I need to tell my story for whatever reason. I need to tell my story. And I had no intention of it going where it did now or where it has gone. I just knew with all of my being, I had to start telling my story. I've had people all my life say, oh my gosh, you have such a fascinating story. You should tell your story. And there were a lot of parts of my story I didn't want anyone to know.
And isn't that interesting? Because that's, as we talk as friends, the raw vulnerability is really what has changed you, changed your blog, brought all these amazing people, changed, so many things in your life. So I'd love to dive into that. What does vulnerability mean to you, and how do you apply that really every day in the way you live your life and connect with people through your blog?
What happened was in 2000, see, yeah, that's how old I am. 19, it was like back in 18 something or another.
Right, back in the day.
Right. I believe it was 2012 is when Brené Brown came out with her TED Talk on vulnerability. I watched it about 100 times. I watched it over and over and over, and she shared about how vulnerability and stepping into vulnerability is going to give you so much more in your life. And then I thought, well, I don't even know what that means. I'm vulnerable. Of course I'm vulnerable. We're all vulnerable. So I don't understand this. And I don't know how to be more vulnerable. And then I started thinking about that. And it's like, I think for me, I needed to find my truth. And the way to find my truth was to tell the truth. And not only to myself, but to my readers, to anyone who was interested, I was going to tell the truth. So from day one, I thought, how am I going to start? What am I going to do? It was a Sunday. I had my sweats on. My hair wasn't done. I had no makeup on. And in that moment, I thought, I'm going to just strip down into my everyday underwear and I'm going to take a picture. I wouldn't even let my husband take it. I'm going to put my camera on the tripod. I'm going to take a picture of myself and then say, this is me. This is just the raw me. And I'm going to step off a ledge and share this with my readers. And it was a symbolic thing, of course, because who cares what I look like in my underwear? Yeah. But it was part of this hiding. I was hiding behind my clothes, behind my stories of who I was telling everybody I was, or who everyone thought I was. I would go, okay, if you think that's who I am, then I would have started agree with that. And so my way of just jumping off that ledge was to do this.
You dove right in. You didn't, there weren't baby steps.
Right. But see, I was smart enough to know that I didn't have any followers. That's the time to do it when nobody knows you.
Except that now, everybody, all those followers are seeing all of that raw vulnerability.
Right.
And it was life-changing.
It was so
life-changing.
life-changing.
Just for the blog that had this ripple effect in every aspect of your life.
It did. Yeah, it gives me goosebumps. It makes me want to tear up thinking about it because it had a huge effect on me. Again, not really knowing where I was going when I first started. I just knew the story. And so I started thinking about my mother and growing up and how I grew up in Michigan, very, very, very poor, huge family. I was very lost in the middle of that. I mean, I was second to the youngest of a enormous family, and my parents were older when I was born, and just all these things that were just coming out, and that was easy to sort of tell. But then came a moment of truth. I had told one person in my life about being molested as a child by a family member, and that was my husband, John. So I didn't tell anyone until I was in my 50s that this happened. And
that's a very common Me Too, isn't it?
It was all before the Me Too movement, but I'm so glad, again, I think it was like this collective of all of us coming out. I mean, the Me Too movement was, again, it gives me goosebumps because it was a collective of our women, our age especially, that said, this happened to me. And I realized in that moment, I wasn't alone. And so many women, I was shocked over and over and over, so many women that this had happened to. And hopefully that changes in our history and moving forward. But these things started happening. And so I just started taking these deep breaths like, okay, well, that didn't hurt so much saying that out loud and writing it. And so
you had actually an experience come out of that with a family member.
I did. I had actually several family members contact me and said that happened to them too. And it was a great way to end a family dynamic and a belief that we need to protect the man. When I was growing up, the words I heard was, how could she do that to him?
Right.
And that stuck with me like glue. How could she do that to him? It was like, did anyone wonder how could he do that to her?
It's that core belief there's something wrong with us.
Right.
And we did something to attract this.
Right. Or how do you destroy a man's life? You know,
exactly.
just keep that to yourself and, it happened, get over it, move on. And which most of us did. It happened, we moved on, but it still damaged the little part of you. There's a thing inside of you that you're just like,
it's carrying that.
Yeah. And if you tell somebody, it makes it real.
Right.
So, but then making it real, release the kind of the negative energy of it.
We carry energy in these stories, like you were talking about. If we tell a story too, we build it in our own minds and we build this energy about it. But when we start looking at it and telling the truth about it, it evaporates. It's amazing. Like you said, these voices inside, silence.
Right. Yeah. And it made it not important. So
Stop feeding it energy.
Right. And something that happened to me as a child had this power over me that all of a sudden no longer had a power over me. And I can talk about it openly now. I would have never in a million years told you or anyone or
and here you are, exactly right.
There's no way I would have.
Thousands of people know and thousands and thousands more.
Right.
And amazing service, really, to yourself and to others.
That's what I didn't understand. I did understand what it was doing for me, but what I didn't understand at the moment was what it was doing for someone else. And that was the beauty of my blog. That was the beauty of telling my story, was that it allowed somebody else to do the same thing. It allowed, family members, strangers came to me. I had personal emails telling me that the same thing happened to them, and it helped them. So that was the biggest gift I could have ever received, was to be able to do that. And so then I just kept going.
Well, you talked about your own relationship. Like it really had this ripple effect way beyond, and people noticing, like your husband. And I think it's a really important thing to share that he's noticing you changing through this organic process.
He did. It was a couple months into it. He just kept saying, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. He read every single post before it was ever published, because he's now editing for me. I used to edit for him, and now he's editing for me. But he would just go, wow. So it did two things. He said it helped him understand me. You can tell somebody all you want and tell somebody, and when you're talking, I think the other person is sort of thinking in their head about processing what's the next step. But when you're reading, you're absorbing. And he was absorbing me and everything about me, and he started changing. And I was changing because I felt this calmness. This thing was happening to me where I get goosebumps.
that's I call it God bumps, but whatever, it's something bigger. You're touching on something so much bigger.
And it was just letting go of all these things. I had made John promise never to tell anyone. I'm now writing out, openly and sharing with whoever it happens to to read it. And it just made me calm and made me feel happier and gave me this gift. And it is continuing to do that. So,
and you have a formula. You have a kind of magic formula that has really been a success for you and something that you can really share with other women.
Yeah, it really worked. And it was sort of out of necessity. I'm an avid reader. I love reading, but I also don't have time, or at least I tell myself that I don't have time. And what happens to me is when I see a big block of text, I go, too big of a commitment.
That's it.
That's going to take me 5 whole minutes, and I don't have that much time. So that commitment of time was something I thought everybody feels the way I do. There are so many fantastic blogs out there. There's so much to read. There's so many books and magazine articles and all these things I want to read. So how can I hand this to someone and say, here, this is just a little bit of time, and you might like it. And so I decided from the beginning I would keep it around 500 words. So sort of flash nonfiction is anywhere from 250 to 500 words is considered flash fiction, or in this case, nonfiction. And I thought if I just keep it in bite-sized pieces, it'll have a good effect of people saying, okay, that was interesting. But the other part is when you keep it that short, there's no way you can tell the whole story.
You want people to come back and come back. Like you're leaving a little tidbit and then a hook to come back to continue the story. And last, one of the posts I read recently was obviously the story about John and the picture of him in the hospital, which is a powerful story leading up to that story. And the story continues.
Right. I've had people message me saying, I need to know what happened. I cannot wait.
I read some of the posts when people were commenting there. I got
personal messages.
Like frenzied,
I got DMs saying, I need to know what happens. I cannot wait. It's like, I had to wait, so do you.
It's like that soap opera we were watching when we were kids. We got to go back on. It is. It's a living soap opera. I need to
turn the page, but there's no more pages. And it's like I'm doling out the pages a day at a time. And it's been, I honestly didn't think about that in the beginning. I just thought, I just want to make this easy for people. But it's had a great effect for me because I do have a lot of subscribers. I have a lot of people coming back every day looking to see what happens next. So the cliffhangers are great.
It's awesome. And it keeps you I don't want to say it. You have this responsibility now to these people to continue telling them the story, which is fantastic.
Oh yeah. Last week I posted Monday through Thursday, and then Friday announced that I'm going to write a book, which we'll talk about.
Okay. Yeah. Well, wait. That was soft. That was like, I want you to shout that to the rooftops. What are you doing?
I decided I'm going to write my first book. So thank you. And I'm very excited about it, and I definitely want to share it with you. But last week I wrote 4 posts about the story and sort of a lot of soft hanging there on Thursday. And I got Friday when I made the announcement I'm going to write my book. I was like, well, wait a minute, what's going on with the story? Where's the rest of the story? It's like, okay, you're going to write a book. I need to know what's going to happen next. Come on.
Right now, that's coming right now. We want right now.
Right. Yeah. So that made me feel really good, actually,
that's
that
awesome.
People are saying that to me. And I've decided that it's time.
So tell us about this book, because the book is taking really a chunk of like the last year and a half, but I want you to share what's this book about?
I went back and forth trying to decide. I love that everyone keeps saying you should write a book, because I'm just telling a story. I'm telling a story I know. And
you've lived.
I've lived. So it's easy to tell a story, but I won't do a memoir. I just won't. For me,
well, you've already done that, really. You're writing sort of a memoir.
And not only that, I'm not known. I mean, you read a memoir of someone famous, and so who cares who Loretta Sayers is? I mean,
well, I do. I think a lot of people out there actually do that in a short amount of time.
Right.
But I hear you. No, I understand.
Right. So I would like to take pieces of my story, and I would like to write some novels and create characters, and that's built around the story. That's the truth, but I can be a lot more open, and I can not have to worry about hurting anyone's feelings if I just make it into a novel. So I want to do that. But first and foremost, I was thinking about what this effect has had on me in this last year and a half, and starting the blog in 2017 to today, and how I've changed, and how if I can share that story and the process it took, maybe I'll help somebody else find, as we say, find their voice, find their story within, find just anything that'll help them through midlife and beyond find the happiness I found.
So what has surprised you the most about this whole process and diving into this inner world of the blog and all these stories you revisited?
So many things have. It's really interesting to look back on it, but probably the most significant thing that happened to me in writing my stories and telling my stories was the story about my brother's death. My brother died in 1980. I was 21 years old, and we were extremely close. My mom always called us two peas in a pod, and we we're very close. We could finish each other's sentences. He was my confidant growing up, and we shared so much. And unfortunately, at 23, he was accidentally killed on the job. He was electrocuted, and my mother was already gone, and my father couldn't handle any of the news or anything, and just had
Shut
me.
down.
Yeah, I handled all the arrangements for his funeral and cremation and all of that, and so that's something a 21-year-old should never have to do.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely devastating. So I think in all of that process, I obviously heard what happened to my brother, and he was with someone, a coworker, and in my head, I had that he had saved his life. And I felt then that my brother's death was somehow justified. That's going to make me cry. So I felt that it was okay because something good came out of it. And that's, I think, one of the ways we can
Coping.
Yeah, coping to deal with death, especially a sudden death and a young person. So that was a narrative in my head that this had happened. And through the process of writing and telling my story, I was also digging into, because part of my blog is I share personal photos. So I have bins and bins and bins of photos because nothing is organized, but I never throw a photo away. And in the process of digging through those, I found the newspaper clipping from his death and didn't think anything of it, wrote the story, and then for some reason it was still out, and I read it. And it was the first time in all those years that I actually read the story.
You'd never read the story?
No. I clipped
it out. So you lived with your own story?
I lived with my own story. I clipped out this article and I put it in this book, and then that was it. Why do I need to read it? So I read it, and it gave me the real story about his death and what happened. And it was for no good reason. It was just, this thing happened and he didn't save a life. He just walked back to this truck, and that was being electrocuted, and touched it, and he died instantly. And I was devastated. I literally just fell to the floor crying because it changed so much. Not only the story, but my heart was just wrenched out of me that how this death was.
It's a tragic accident.
There was no sense in it. Why did it happen? So that part of me just kept wanting to go back and go, if I could just stand right there and say, stop, don't do this, don't do this. If I could just do this. And so I wrote about it. I wrote about this experience I was having with reading the newspaper article, and shared actually the newspaper article, and I got an amazing response from people. And the best thing I got out of it was things happen. Life happens, death happens for no apparent reason. There's not always a pretty bow that you can wrap around this to make sense of it. And it's okay.
Bad things happen to good people.
It does. Yeah, they do.
And we don't have control.
No, and we don't have any control. And trying to create control inside of my brain and try to us, it just doesn't.
Keeps us in prison. You were kind of beholden to that accident that you couldn't do anything about.
I was, and I didn't realize at the time that I was holding on to it still. I mean, this was 47 years later, or what? I don't even know how many. There's a lot of years later of still holding on to this narrative and holding on to it. And an interesting thing happened is that once I let that go, it's just an accident. It's just something that happened. There's nothing more to read into it. There's nothing more to make of it. And it's okay.
Well, I think that's the power of the midlife woman is there's this freedom. There's this like awakening, like you said. It's not a crisis. We might call it a crisis that leads to something, but the crisis leads to something good which is an awakening and an empowerment within that we have control over our thoughts, we have control over our perceptions, we have control over our beliefs, we have control over our stories. And we've been living in this inner world that isn't necessarily empowering us in a positive way.
No. And, you know, you and I had chatted earlier that from the time we're little, we're told who we are. And some of those things we accept and some we reject. You know, you're told you're pretty, you're told you're athletic, you're told you're artistic, you know, you're strong, you're kind, whatever. And we go, yes, yes, yes. But then we're also told negative things. You're being sassy, you know, don't be so bossy. And you're not being, you know, you're doing this. And so you start to
shut down and make yourself smaller and go, I don't want to be bossy. Okay.
Right.
And it might just be in that moment, maybe you were bossy. That doesn't mean you are bossy, but then it starts changing us.
It does.
We allow ourselves to change.
We do. And so we keep building up those things. And I think that was like the midlife thing is part of, okay, I'm going to pull those things out and I'm going to examine them and I'm going to decide, yes, this is who I am. And yes, this is who I am. And yes, I'm a little bit of that, but I'm going to change that bossy to being powerful.
Right.
Because I'm going to reframe it. And that is in itself powerful because it gives you this freedom to say, I'm going to own who I am. I'm going to define myself of who I am, and then I'm going to own it and I'm going to be proud of it. I used to I used to defend. When someone would say to me, you're this or you're that, I would go, well, I don't think I am. And now I go, yep, I am.
You own it. You own it in a positive way.
I do, because it's okay to be multifaceted. It's okay to have all these parts of our personalities. And we have to have that. Can you imagine a world if we were all identical? It would be crazy.
It would be crazy. It would be a lot less colorful. There's this author, Debbie Ford. She's passed away, but she did this whole shadow. You know, we talk about the shadow and Carl Jung and all that, but that's what she talks about. It's when we dive into the shadow that the gold is found. It's in like those parts of ourselves that we have looked at negatively or perceived negatively, but there's a positive side to it. There's a light side to everything.
There is. Yeah, and it's interesting too, because when you stop defending or saying, no, I'm not, or whatever, and just say yes and
accept it.
Right. Yeah, my ex-husband used to say I was a chameleon. And I thought it was an insult. I thought, no, I'm not. I don't do that. And you know what? I am. Yeah. It makes me a good salesperson. Yeah. Because I can read somebody and I can mirror them and help them feel comfortable. That is not a bad thing.
Yeah. There's a good thing in everything.
Right.
So how we choose to see it.
Right.
So you are counting down to 60. I don't know exactly how many days and minutes and hours,
but
if you go to her blog and count down to 60, you're going to see it there. What is, you said there was this fear about being 60, you know, Oprah had really made 50 kind of cool, but 60 was still this in between, and Helen Mirren's made 70 kind of cool. So you had this perception of 60, which I don't know what that was, but I'd love to know what that perception was, and what's the reality?
60's old.
Yeah.
That's the perception. And I think growing up, I saw the women before me turn 60 and become old. They accepted what society said is you're old. They accepted that you're a senior citizen. And matter of fact, you get a discount for being a senior citizen. I don't want the damn discount. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
not yet. But the perception was it's old. Even I mentioned to my granddaughter, who's 7, that I'm going to be 60. And she goes, wow, Nana, that's old. Of course, 35 could be old to her too, which is funny. But it is that perception. And it's like, here's the reality of it. I have more of my life behind me than I do ahead of me. I don't like that part. Yeah. I love life and I just want to keep going. So I'm going to be healthy and I'm going to do whatever I can do to do that. But I probably won't go to 120. So now that I have come to that realization that yes, most of my life is behind me and it's been great telling my story, what's ahead of me? I want what's ahead of me to be fantastic. I want it to be everything that I've ever dreamt it to be. I want to do things. I don't want to stop. I want to keep going. And I think we're sort of the way, like we said, Oprah redefined 50. We're redefining 60 to be fabulous and young.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
60. And so Tell me, what is your new belief system? What's your belief system about you? What have you let go of and what have you adopted?
Oh my gosh, so much.
That's a whole show in and of itself.
Yes, I think it
Yeah.
could be. And I think the biggest thing is that I don't have to be everything for everyone. I can just be who I am, and I have a gift. I have a gift to give to whoever I'm around, and that gift is just a conversation, perhaps. But I don't have to be the Jane of all trades. It's interesting. I wrote on my blog that I'm the Jane of all trades, master of one. And the reason I put master of one is that in any given moment, I'm mastering where I'm at. And I feel like I'm mastering where I'm at. And that is such a huge change for me because I'm always concerned about the past and the future. What happened here and what's going to happen here. It's like, you know what? It's
right now, be here, right
Mhm,
now, right
mhm.
here. Okay.
Yeah.
So as far as you've mastered, it's a process of mastery,
It
right? It's
is.
an ongoing process of mastery. You seem a lot happier, for at least from what this person you've described, and I think that's a really beautiful thing in midlife. Even though there's this weird perception that we're old and we're this and we're set in our ways, but there's this lightness.
It
and,
is.
Yeah, freedom.
It is freedom. And I definitely feel much happier than when I definitely when it's my 20s, 30s, and 40s. So, I mean, I think I'm happy and I've been happy, but I just have a calm happy now. It's sort of a feeling, it is definitely a freedom and a feeling of, I really like who I am.
Yeah.
And it takes a while, I think, for some of us, definitely not everyone, to get here of liking who you are and being okay with who you are and offering that to whoever wants to be around me. I think we talked about it with the blog is that, again, the vulnerability is like letting go of what other people believe you are, who you are, or better yet, letting go of worrying about what they think you are.
Buying into that belief system and creating our own and owning that.
Right.
Which
It
is
makes you
power.
happy.
It
Yeah.
makes you happy.
It does.
So you are a huge part of the Forever Fierce community, which I'm so, Forever Fierce Revolution. So there's really two questions I want to ask you. One, what does it mean to be fierce? And then after that, I want to go into this Project Shields Down, because within the Forever Fierce community, there's a movement within a movement you've really created, which is this Shields Down. So let's start. First of all, what does it mean to be fierce to you? And then after that, I really want to dive into Shields Down.
Interesting enough, what fierce means to me is to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. It is to, for me personally, it was to let my shield down, let all of them down, just be vulnerable and say, this is who I am, and find out that I'm accepted the way I am. And I think I did that even with your community. I was kind of like, I'm not like you guys. I never. And you're like, it's okay. No big deal.
Just be you. It's all good.
Oh,
it's
okay.
all good.
Yeah, I get to do that.
Yeah,
so
you get to be you.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
So within the Forever Fierce Revolution, we sort of adopted this whole Project Shields Down, which is really about vulnerability and letting our shields down, which you had on your, profile on Instagram, because it's really been an enormous part of your life, which all it means, shields down, letting our armor down, allowing ourselves to be vulnerable.
Right.
So what does it mean to you? And, I know you're going to be sharing the story in the newsletter, and Deb Gutierrez is really ushering this whole project, but it really came from you.
Well, I think it comes from all of us.
Yeah,
because
the vulnerability we
right.
don't own, but just shields down. So
right.
It was something that's been a core philosophy for you.
It has been. I like I said, that reason I posted the crazy first picture in my underwear was a way of throwing all of my shields down, saying,
can't get many more shields down than that.
Right. And, I'm just going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to show who I am. I'm going to allow people to see me. I'm going to share who I am, and we'll see what happens. And and I know you have done the same. I know you continue to do the same. And
I haven't done one like that, but I've done many. Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Very vulnerable things.
Oh, yeah, very, very much so. And sharing what happened, your story and the things that have happened to you is so powerful. And with that, for me, the Shields Down is not about telling. It's not about telling you how to do it. It's about sharing and showing you how I did it, how you did it, how this person's done it. And if we can all show openly and vulnerably how to do it, everyone will go, oh, they still lived.
Right, so you survived that. Wow,
that.
and you're actually even better for like talking about
Right.
it. So, well, I think that's a really important point because there is no one way to do vulnerability,
No.
right? Everyone, and some people have to dip their toe in. Some people
Right.
take a picture like in their underwear,
Right.
but everyone has a different level that they're ready for vulnerability.
Absolutely.
And there's no shame in not being ready to be fully vulnerable.
No,
Right?
I think it is a process, and believe me, I didn't magically wake up the next day and going, woohoo, I did it. It's like, okay, now I have to do it. And so I think once you let a little bit of, one part of a shield down or peek around the corner of it or whatever, it starts a cascade, and you'll get to continue to do it, and it'll just change who you are. It'll change the people around you. You'll reap the benefits. It's an amazing process.
So why do you think our society is so locked into this old perception of midlife and beyond?
Oh man,
that's a whole other show.
Right,
But,
I wish I knew the answer to that, because I think we do have, definitely media and society has put on this, you can't have wrinkles, you can't have gray hair. I'm letting my hair grow. I'm letting the gray come out, and I'm letting it go natural because I want to now. I'm
it's
ready
a choice.
It is a choice. Believe me. I'd diet till the day I died if that's what I want to do, and we got to do what we want to do.
Exactly.
And I think the reason that midlife has, definitely been considered a negative for so many people is that we've been told you have to stay youthful, and you have to look youthful, at least for women.
While we're aging.
While we're
aging.
Time. Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
No, nobody's looking at Brad Pitt and saying, "Oh, he's got some lines," and man, you need to do something about those lips.
Well, that's still cool. The Marlboro Man and the cragginess and
right.
all that is cool. But for us, yeah,
right, it's a different standard for us, and we are standing up and saying no. This is who we are. I love, again, other famous people are coming forward and saying no. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh my gosh,
amazing.
She is, one of the 4 founders of this, because she posted, years ago, a photo
without
of her,
makeup. On the cover
and all the things that we do to hold everything together, and so I think we have to just continue to do that. It's going to take a while. There is going to be a ripple effect, but it is going to take a while because we don't like change. We like things to stay the same. This is how it's done. This is how it's done. This is how it's done. You have to stay young. You have to stay beautiful. You have to, we're way much more than this. We're
multifaceted. We're so many aspects of ourselves that we don't see. And I think that's what's really cool. That's what you're writing about, this inner world. And I think that's the power of midlife. Is what's really cool is what's inside of us that we don't see.
Right. I think so too. And I think when we share that, it allows other people to share theirs, and we find that it's not just the flat image on a screen or on a magazine that says this is who this person is. And we do that. We meet somebody and then we instantly size them up, or not size them up, but we assess
judgments. We have a judgment.
Right. It's natural. It's how we survived. But there's so much more than that. I know on social media, it's been so interesting. And I think one of the reasons I contacted you a long time ago was, I'll just be honest, I thought, she is pretty, she's thin. It's like, oh girl, please. None of us can compete with you. And then you posted this story about what you went through with the Lyme disease. And it was so honest and real, and it just, it shook me, and I was like, I need to know who you are.
I'm so glad you did.
But then besides what it did for me, it's like, wow, I keep saying, don't judge. And then I did, without even thinking about it. I made a judgment about a photo or this or that. And I try so hard now not to do that, and to let this other person come out and let them tell their story.
Thank you for that. And I think that's really important. I think there's so much beauty and wisdom in midlife. And that's probably the number one thing is, again, it's awareness, right? Awareness of ourselves. And what I learned, which I think is really cool, is when we judge, we automatically separate. There's no way to actually be close to somebody and judge them at the same time.
Absolutely. It does. It puts a wall up.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
puts a wall up.
talk
If
about a
you're doing
shield.
shields down, right?
Right.
An instant shield.
Right. And so that's another aspect of shields down I just thought of is doing that for someone else. The wall you just put up because you decided that person was, different than you or more than you or less than you or however, take that down and let them be equal.
Well, we had that experience at FierceCon. FierceCon, if you guys don't know and haven't seen FierceCon, we're doing another one in October of this year, but it was a powerful experience, and FierceCon is really what we're talking about. And one woman after another sharing their incredible, heartfelt, vulnerable story, and another woman going, oh my God, I'm not all these things I've been telling myself all this time.
Right. Well, I think that one of the beautiful things about FierceCon and what happened was our fireside or beachside chats. Sorry.
Beachside in California.
Right.
Although this year could be fireside, but it's pretty cold.
Right. I think what happened was when we saw these women in front of us that were beautiful or successful or charming or a speaker or anything, and then heard their story, it was like, oh, okay, they're just like us.
Yeah, we're
all in this big giant boat together.
Yeah.
And I say we, hold hands and just continue forward.
Kumbaya.
Yeah. Let's sing.
Well, we kind of do that in Forever Fierce. There's a lot of, it's not weird stuff, but it's just very heart-centered and authentic.
Yes.
No mean girls allowed.
No, not
girls.
at all. And everyone is very, very supportive and encouraging. And I think that's a beautiful thing. It's just so, it's good for our hearts and our souls.
It is. It's really good for our hearts. So before you know it, you're going to be 60. May 11th is the big year, big day next year.
This year.
Next year. It's been like the next year thing I've been saying. So yeah, May 11th this year.
May 10th, I'm going to be 60.
May 10th is the birthday. 11th
yes,
is
May
the
11th is a celebration. And I would love everybody in the world to come because I'm that person who wants a commune and I want everyone to come and stay.
I'm kind of into the commune idea myself.
I know. It's just be so fun. And so I know a lot of local people are going to come, but I know a lot of people who can't come. And I want to somehow bring everyone into this because I've been so supportive by so many people across the world, really. And so I'm still trying to kind of figure that out with a little bit of your help of maybe coming up with a design and some t-shirts and just try to get people involved with my celebration. Because, we talked earlier, we're all counting.
Yeah,
we're all counting down. Either we've count down to 60, those that have gone before us, or you're counting down to 60. And it's that thing that's going to, we're going to make it not a thing. It's not going to be a big, we're not turning old on that day.
Right. No, we're not. We're not.
We're going to celebrate it and embrace it.
Interesting. Yeah, we are busy busting those old perceptions and celebrating age and celebrating every single age because the truth is we're all counting down to something.
Right.
And I think the coolest thing about being in midlife, we're carrying all those younger versions of ourselves. So no matter what age you are, that you've passed, all those selves are still with us. And
right.
Our future selves, do we really want to project negativity toward? I think we want to really think, the older I get, the cooler I get.
Right.
To me, in my own mind.
It was interesting. I was having a conversation the other day with a friend who was saying that someone was saying they're turning 50 and they were all upset. And of course at my age, I'm like, oh girl, please, 50 was easy. And then made me laugh and goes, I can just see some 70-year-old lady going, oh girl, please, 60's easy. And then we'll get to 70 and we'll do the same thing. Yeah. Oh girl.
It's
70's
so
easy.
True. I get messages like that all the time, especially some people don't know Forever Fierce is not some cutoff. And midlife, as we were talking about earlier, is, to me, it's 35 up. It's like there is no cutoff. It's like when you start feeling differently about yourself or the world starts treating you differently and you go, oh my God, I'm not seeing myself in marketing and advertising and I'm perceived as older. And it's like, no. And we're living longer than ever before. Well, you said maybe not.
Yeah,
that's a whole other story. But at least we are in our own. So to me, it's about busting those perceptions and creating a new reality. And you are busy creating an incredible reality.
Thank you. It's been really fun being on the show.
Thank you for being here. So let everybody know where to find you. You are busy all over. You're traveling all over, and they want to be able to find you on social media and on your blog.
My blog is The Countdown to 60. On social media, I'm Loretta's Countdown to 60. I wanted my name in there. How
Yeah,
vain,
yeah,
right?
that was a new one. Yeah,
I
that was a new
know.
one, new addition.
So on Instagram, Loretta's Countdown to 60, Facebook, Loretta's Countdown to 60, and my blog, The Countdown to 60. And I hope everyone gets a chance to take a look at it and that you really enjoy it. And it's fun. It's not all tragedy.
No, it's not. There's a lot. There's
some
obviously.
juicy
You're
stuff that's
you're
fun.
not looking tragic today. You're looking very happy and positive. And I want to give a quick shout out to Instagram Over 50 too.
Oh, thank
That you
you.
have a group in there that is, if you guys are interested in getting involved in social media, growing, your presence and finding your voice, you have an amazing group of women.
Yeah, we have a group of women that are we got on, we found each other. So women over 50, we actually have some guys over 50, but people over 50 trying to grow social media, find each other, and support each other.
So hashtag Instagram Over 50. You've got a Facebook community,
Yep.
and just make sure to connect with this one because the story continues, and you won't want to miss this book that is in process. You're accountable to all of us now.
I know, I have to do it now.
I
said it out loud.
Yeah, I know you started to whisper it. I didn't let you. So anyway,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for being here. Delight always, and hopefully you'll be back again and again.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in today, guys. And cheers, beauties. Stay fierce.